You've been there before. You promised yourself you wouldn't react like that. You've read the books, you've had the aha moments, and maybe even said, this stops now. But now, no matter how much you know about breaking the family patterns, in the heat of the moment, it's like all the knowledge goes out the window. Why does that happen? And what is the missing link to actually get you to actually make the change? So here's the truth. Awareness and having those aha moments isn't enough. It's the beginning, but it's not enough. Because if your nervous system isn't calm, you don't even have access to part of the brain that helps you make better choices. But don't worry, this isn't about perfection. It's about creating small shifts that give you the power to respond instead of react. So let's talk about how. In the last episode, we talked about the generational trauma and how it shapes our thoughts, our feelings, behaviors, ways we don't even realize. We also talked about the power of asking questions to uncover these invisible patterns, like, why do I avoid conflict? Why do I feel guilty when I say no? Why do I keep chasing other people's approval? If you start asking yourself those questions, you might have had some big realization. What you do isn't even really you, or is that somebody else's guilt that you're absorbing or feel guilty for? Maybe you notice that when you say yes to everyone, it's because you grew up feeling like how much of what you do isn't even really you. Maybe you notice that when you say yes to everyone is because you grew up feeling like love had to be earned. Or maybe you realize that when someone criticizes you, you shut down. You were taught, though, that as a kid, speaking up wasn't safe. Maybe your parents, when you spoke up, said, I don't want to hear it. So those are all the patterns that we start noticing. That awareness is huge. It's the first step. But here's the thing. Awareness can only help if you create the space to actually make a new choice. And what is that space? That's where calming your nervous system actually comes in. So let's break this down in a way that is super relatable. You know those moments when someone says something like, your heart races, your chest tightens, and before you can even think, you're snapping back and shutting down. And afterwards, you're like, why did I do that? I know better. So there's a reason why. When your nervous system is triggered, it hijacks your brain, literally. Your body thinks it's under threat even when the threat is just your dad commenting on your career or your partner leaving dirty dishes in the sink for the third time, or the shoes in the entryway. In that moment, your brain is in survival mode. It's not interested in thoughtful responses, it's just trying to protect you. But here's the kicker. A lot of what your nervous system sees as danger is based on old programming. Stuff you picked up in your childhood, or even inherited from your parents or grandparents. So when your mom criticizes you, it's not just her comment. It's the emotional weight of years of feeling judged and misunderstood. So here's when things get tricky. Even when you know you need to calm down, in the moment when you're enraged or when you're triggered, it feels impossible because your nervous system is running on autopilot. If you grew up in a household where emotions were ignored, conflict was constant, or love was tied to achievement, your body learned to live in a state of high alert. You might not even realize it, but your nervous system has been stuck in survival mode for years. And here's the wild part. For some of us, calm actually feels weird, unfamiliar, even unsafe. If you're used to chaos, slowing down can feel like you're losing control. That's why sitting still to breathe or meditate might make you feel restless or even more stressed at first. And I love it when people tell me, I can't just sit still, I can't meditate. Actually, that means that you need to actually slow down. That's an indicator. For me, it started with overworking. I filled every moment with tasks, projects, responsibilities, not because I had to, but because staying busy, I didn't have to sit with my feelings. Slowing down felt like opening a door to emotions that I wasn't even ready to face. So I rationalized and made every excuse not to slow down. But it wasn't just the busyness. I also found myself stuck in toxic relationships. I stayed in situations that weren't healthy for me because I believed that if I could just prove my worth, I could show my partner how valuable I was. They'd finally accept me for me. Deep down, I was chasing validation. I thought I had to earn the love and acceptance, the same way I had been taught as a child, through accomplishments and performance. It didn't feel good, but it did feel familiar. The emotional highs, the lows, the chaos, it mirrored the patterns I grew up with. My nervous system had mistaken the kind of dysfunction for normal. Maybe for you, it looks like endlessly scrolling on your phone, avoiding it, avoiding responsibilities, or neglecting your self-care. The truth is, we often resist slowing down because we're afraid of what will come up when we stop. The sense of overwhelm, that is all fear. It's what keeps us stuck, repeating the very patterns we're trying to break. So why calming your nervous system is so important? Because it creates what I like to call a gap. The gap is that moment between feeling triggered and feeling those strong emotions and then taking action. It's the space where you can choose to respond instead of react. Because without it, you're stuck in that autopilot, repeating the same patterns over and over and over again. And you're not going to understand why. You're not even going to be aware of it. Let's say your sibling makes a passive-aggressive comment about your parenting. Normally, you might snap back or even spend the rest of the evening stewing in resentment. But if your nervous system is calm and you create that gap, you can actually pause. And maybe you notice the frustration in your chest and think, I'm not going to let this ruin my night. But then instead of reacting, you choose to set a boundary and say something very neutral, or just let it go. That's the power of the gap. It doesn't reinforce negative outcomes or negative consequences. So, okay, let's get practical. Here are 3 simple tools to help you calm your nervous system and create the gap in the moment. Number 1, the 4-6 breath. Breathing deeply in for 4 counts and holding it for a moment, and then slowly exhale through your mouth for 6 to 8 seconds. This signals to your body that it is safe and it's okay to relax. Name what you feel. When you feel triggered, literally say to yourself, I am feeling angry, or I'm feeling overwhelmed. That is the mind and body connection. You're bringing the issue to the present moment. Naming your emotion helps you shift from reaction mode to reflection mode. It brings you back to center. The other thing you can do is actually physically shake it out. This sounds silly, but it actually works. When you're feeling stuck, when you're on edge, literally shaking your arms or jumping up and down and wiggling your body, moving your body, releases all the pent-up energy and tension from your nervous system. So these are simple techniques you can apply today. But in the next episode, we'll dive deeper into more tools for calming your nervous system and other ways to stay reflective and stay aware during the process. So what is one pattern you're ready to break? Remember, this video series is an active engagement with you. If you're interested in breaking generational patterns, living authentically, knowing when to put your boundaries, and stopping the generational pattern with you. So when these questions are asked, I expect for you all to take the time for yourself and do these exercises and experiment with them. It doesn't cost you anything, but it does give you bigger reward, and that is the life that you deserve and want to live. So here's again my question for you. What's one small family pattern you're ready to break? And what is one small step you can take to calm your nervous system today? Let me know in the comments, and I'd love to hear your story.